I can't believe the semester is over, and honestly, it's so bittersweet. I didn't expect to tear up the last day of each class, so it's a good thing my seatmate had tissues handy for me. But those tears don't count towards the four breakdowns I had this semester, so I wanted to take some time to reflect and share some of the experiences with you guys. Going into the HBS experience, I did not really know what to expect because I never visited before applying. I did not talk to alumni, and to be honest, none of the classes really seemed that interesting to me. I was kind of scared of finance and accounting despite having a business minor and taking two finance classes in undergrad. I did not really see the point of marketing. Strategy is kind of ambiguous. Lead felt fluffy. And what the heck is tech and ops management? Plus, making friends with so many people was very daunting. Well, remember this graph? Let's walk through it. Breakdown number one. I already talked about it in a video about the first 2 weeks of school, but I had to break down the first week of school. I really felt overwhelmed by the casework and the pressure to make friends. I felt like I was not meant to be here and I felt stuck. Honestly, this feeling didn't really go away until the last few weeks of the semester, but I soon discovered that everyone here feels that way, and that soon competing priorities would steal time from preparing for class, and later in the semester, it's easier to get in class. Breakdown number two. The second breakdown I had was around making friends. Coming to HBS, I had a goal of trying to be friends with a diverse set of people. I hauled my introvert butt to small group dinners, socials, and asked people to hang out, and I tried to talk to everyone. Not only did I get a little burnt out, but I had a breakdown because I felt like I still had no friends despite trying so hard, and I was basically making no progress. I realized it was impossible to be friends with everyone. Not just because of the sheer amount of people, but more because it's impossible to be compatible platonically with everyone. Just like we learned in strategy, a firm should not do it all because trying to serve everyone is serving no one, and I definitely felt that. A large majority of the people here are kind and genuine, it just takes a matter of time. But I wish I listened to my gut rather than gaslighting myself that I was bad at making friends. And another point that our lead professor made, well, he said this about kids, not friends, but I also think it applies here, is that the quantity has to be there in order for the quality to kick in and to matter. The crux of it is that there's just not enough time to put in the quantity for the quality to pick up for 99% of my relationships, especially during the first semester. I think now that we're at the precipice of the second semester, the vibe I get is that everyone felt insecure about making friends. Those who have a friend group are questioning if they settled too early, and the people who are still searching for their people are wondering if they've already found them. So, no matter what, we all face a double bind. Breakdown number three. I distinctly remember this day. We had marketing and I had to do a simulation the night before. I didn't really understand the simulation and I think I did pretty poorly and I got cold called in that class. I think that was my only cold call this semester because I had like two or three warm calls and I had to stumble through piecing together my fragmented logic. I remember feeling so disappointed and dejected. And then I had a practice interview later that day with a section mate. They didn't say anything mean or anything. I was just very critical of myself, feeling like I should be further along in the prep, even though I hadn't even applied to the job or gotten an interview yet. I know, Delulu, but the pressure is so real here. I remember going home that day and crying because I felt really dumb. And I think looking at that day in isolation, it wasn't actually that bad, but because at the end of the day, grades don't matter and practice interviews are inconsequential. But on top of the backdrop of a high baseline of stress, wanting to perform well against the other high achievers, this day was the straw that broke the camel's back. I felt completely inadequate and I questioned everything. Breakdown number four. And on top of all the academic, social, and recruiting stress, the weather in New England is crazy. I remember there was a day, it was a weekend, I was meeting up with a section mate to study, and I walked to campus and it was raining and so windy. It was raining sideways, and it was so intense that my umbrella broke. Now I know I need a parka, but in Houston, it basically only rains straight down, and it's not that windy. I remember showing up drenched despite my best efforts to stay dry. And the next day, it was Monday, and the same thing happened. I remember coming home after class that day, and my husband asked me how my day went. All I could do was muster an exasperated sigh, and that was the fourth breakdown. So we need to add another line for dealing with the weather and feeling homesick to this graph. I know it sounds stupid, but I was upset and frustrated at the weather and that I had no way to battle it or avoid it. Okay, we can't just have a video that talks about the bad things that happened. Plenty of good things happened too. Things that I'm very grateful for because without coming to HBS, I would have never gotten to experience them. I got to see the northern lights on campus. Crazy, I know. Thank the crazy New England weather, I guess. I got to see celebrities on campus. Crazy, I know. Thank the HBS brand, I guess. And I got to present at Claremont in front of the whole class and have breakfast with the dean. He's dope, by the way. But just two things, one about Reese Witherspoon and the other about the dean. I was so impressed not just by the companies that Reese started, which I was completely oblivious to beforehand, but how she held herself and her boundaries. Several times questions were asked or topics were brought up about things that she did not want to talk about, such as love life advice, and each time she directed her answer in some other direction, and other times she just said, "We're not going to talk about that, let's move on." In a world that teaches women that we should just make everyone happy and cave in, she set a powerful example of how to hold your ground with grace and professionalism.
What? Like it's hard? Sometimes you just don't know what to do, so I thought I should call on Reza to help me with some Reza, can you help me? Can you help me with something really quick? Just, when you're a student and you have a problem. Yes. And you really need to solve it. What do you do? Well, you bend. I told him if I bend and snap, it costs a lot extra.
And about the dean. I got to sit right next to him on his left during breakfast, and he is so humble. He wanted to get to know our thoughts about the program, and he gave us a glimpse into the world that he navigates politics, admissions, strategy planning for us, the students. Honestly, incredible. And it's moments like this that changed my worldview. Now, whenever I go to a business, you bet that I'm psychoanalyzing everything. Nothing is random, everything is intentional. I'm constantly like, why is the operation so poor? They need to fix X, Y, and Z to improve the customer experience. Why did they lay things out like this? What kind of marketing scheme are they trying to pull to get me to buy something I don't need? Do I need this? Can I find this at a better value somewhere else? What are they really selling? This thing or convenience or a brand image? So yeah, now I'm thinking way harder than I am used to about all the stuff I just took for granted before. So that's kind of weird. In addition to that, I also felt like I was really able to see how much I've learned and grown through the process of taking finals. We had 6 open book, open note finals, 3 in one week and 3 in the next. And they are all cases. Basically, analyze the case, write an essay about what the protagonist should do and why. I was just so amazed at how I took these exams. I know for a fact that 5 months ago, I would have read these cases and been so lost, unsure about how to contextualize, organize, and synthesize all this information. But now, I barely even studied for the exams, and I felt like they were all pretty straightforward. Not easy, but simple. I know everyone is curious about the money. Do I think HBS is worth it after one semester? Have I drunk the Kool Aid? Honestly, of all the semesters, I think the first one is the most worth it. If I were just optimizing for value of learning, I think people should just drop out after the first semester. Our FRC professor said that we get 80% of the value of HBS in the first semester, but people should stay because the last 75% is way more fun. And I think that checks out. The 6 classes we took are the foundation of business, and we got put through the gauntlet to get all of this knowledge. We've met a diverse set of people and experienced half of a Boston winter. It's a good time to bail and say that one semester's of tuition's money was worth it, and I got what I paid for. So there's that. But hey, I think I still want to stay for the fun part of it and to also hopefully get a job out of this. So we'll do another reflection in about 6 months. Basically, you get what you put in. The case method is probably the hardest way to teach because it's a co production between the professors and the students. If any party is unprepared, no one learns as much as they should. Each last class, we get to roast our professors, and I think this only happens because we have had a really fun time bonding through required attendance and mandatory hard work. I can't really think of any other place where this will not only be possible, but encouraged. We did skits poking fun at their teaching idiosyncrasies, past lives on reality TV, calling patterns, and what they say they like and dislike. Everyone was laugh crying the whole time, and at the end, the section gave our professors some gifts. The professors all teared up during our last classes, giving us their parting words, asking us to stay in touch, saying that their investment in our learning and their mentorship has a lifetime guarantee, unfortunately tied to their life. Our strategy professor wished us success, however we define it, and happiness, however we define it. And he told us that, in line with one of the major concepts in strategy, the wedge between the willingness to pay and the cost, to increase our competitive advantage and the value we can bring to a company and how much they're willing to pay us, but don't forget about the wedge. Because as companies' willingness to pay us increases, most of the time the cost also increases, meaning the wedge gets smaller or stays the same. He implored us to drive a larger wedge, just like we strategize about doing for so many companies in our cases. Our Tom professor told us that if we enjoyed his class, we should consider getting a PhD or getting a life. Which, okay, I will rethink what I'm recruiting for, I guess. They all cried. We all cried. Honestly, it's my hope that everyone can experience the fruit of their labor to be as sweet as how my first semester was at HBS. The growing pain at the beginning was brutal, but I guess it takes a few breakdowns to finally break down the old ways of thinking, doing things, and imagining the future. If you thought this was interesting or illuminating, please consider liking and subscribing. Until next time, bye guys.